When it was first announced that Machine Games, known best for their Wolfenstein games, will be doing new Indiana Jones game and that the game is going to be first person, I was kinda skeptical. And I love being proven wrong, because Indiana Jones and the Great Circle has surpassed all my expectations. I am a big Indiana Jones fan, I love first 3 movies, and my favorite one is The Last Crusade. I somehow enjoyed the 4th movie, and at least till the ending happened, and the Dial of Destiny, well, it exists and maybe it would be better if it wouldn't, but Indiana Jones and the Great Circle falls in between Raiders of the Lost Ark and The Last Crusade. For those unaware, Temple of Doom was a prequel to Raiders. So the game takes place in 1937 and revolves around the mystical Great Circle. Main antagonist is Emmerich Voss, and he is searching for the pieces of the Great Circle, which are hidden in the ancient artifacts around the world. And classically, Indiana Jones tries to obtain the remaining pieces before Voss does, to stop him from gaining the power that would basically allow Nazis to basically teleport around the world. We also have female companion Gina Lombardi, who is a journalist and is searching for her sister that worked for Voss. This game did what 4th and 5th movie failed to do spectacularly. It gave us pre-World War II setting, where Indiana Jones franchise feels like it belongs in. It also gave us an actual Nazi antagonist who is presented well as posing a serious threat to the world, but at the same time his evilness is caricaturally over-exaggerated to not be too serious, because after all this is a still fun Indiana Jones adventure. The humor in this game, I'd say it's close to The Last Crusade, and this may be the biggest reason why I personally really enjoyed the story of the game. And also Troy Baker did phenomenal job emulating Harrison Ford voice. Like, if I hadn't known that this is voiced by Troy Baker, I would actually probably think this is Harrison Ford, but nowadays he really sounds like he is tired and done with everything, so he probably wouldn't be able to do this well as Troy Baker did. Congratulations to him, like, this is really great voice acting from him, probably the best voice acting he ever did at this point. Graphically, the game looks great, although there are some few times when character models may look like they are a bit lower quality. When it comes to overall world presentation, details of outside of a few graphical glitches like blinking plane or scuffy looking falling stones, it looks great. But this also has to be mentioned, look at the face of Gina when she picks a pickaxe to attack the enemies. What the hell happened in this place? She looks great throughout all of the game, but when she picks up the axe in this moment, this is her face. What happened? Machine Games, I'm asking, seriously. And I played on Series X, but I also tested the game on PC with RTX 3060. Performance on Xbox is great, and there is no stutters, no frame drops in the gameplay, and on PC it is decently optimized. It actually works pretty well, and the fact that the game on native resolution 1080p was able to work in 50 to 60 frames on medium is impressive, because most modern games I have to just forget about native resolution and I have to escape into DLSS. But the most frame drops that I was getting on PC were during the cutscenes. When the cutscene starts, the frame drops usually occur when the frame is changing. There is a camera change to the different position, and usually the FPS tend to drop in these places. I have seen this happen on Xbox too. Despite of the game being stable during gameplay, I could notice that some cutscenes, not all of them, just some of them, they actually were sometimes lower frame rate than the rest of the game. But you may ask, how is the gameplay? Because this is still a video game after all. Well, they did some kind of a immersive sim type of game, but some decisions they made, like pulling the camera out of your first-person perspective view and placing it behind your back when you're like climbing something or moving through like tight passages, they actually take you out of being fully immersed in the game. And the game itself is divided like in 3 main sections with like a few transitional sections in between of them, but we have 3 main open maps. There is Vatican, Giza, and Sukhothai. All 3 of those have distinctly different feeling: city, desert, and a jungle, where in the 3rd one most of the traveling you will be doing by boat, so you actually get full freedom of exploring these locations and completing main quests as well as some side quests and some Ubisoft adjacent slop that actually, I don't know if you can call it like that, because they actually, the collectibles in this game actually make sense. Unlike in the Ubisoft games, there are usually only a couple of narrative side missions that give you more information about the plot, explore a little bit of more about Great Circle, the thing that you're actually in pursuit of. These quests are called field work, and you also have side quests that consist of finding the artifacts or medicine bottles under discoveries, and also mysteries with you gain some clues and you have to search for something specific, like the place when the photo was taken, and usually this leads you to opening some kind of safe or secret passage and finding money, books, ammo, these types of things. You also get to search for something called ancient artifacts. There's a lot of them in the game, but when you find all of them, you can place them in the right spot at the last location in the game as a last puzzle, and they actually lead to something. But the important is that when you leave the location and you haven't finished everything in the location, you can always come back and finish everything that you've missed before. The only thing that kind of loses its charm is like side quests. When you finish them after passing certain point of the story, they kind of feel pointless because you get information that are kind of out of date at this point. So it's better to finish these field work side quests before finishing the last main quest in the location that you are at. And I personally had fun running around, especially in Giza, and exploring ruins and finding more relics and stuff. Sometimes the game can require from you to finish some side quests to earn additional funds because you don't have any left to progress the main missions, and there are points when you have to buy something to progress further. And let me tell you, one of the dumbest things in this game, one of the things that you have to buy is a lighter. Because Indiana Jones, who roams the ancient ruins, doesn't have a lighter to save his life. Seriously, I was forced to run back to the small town in the middle of the desert because I was asked by the game to buy a lighter. I was stunned at this point. But continuing, and we also have riddles in this game, and there is a way to choose like a difficulty of the puzzles at the beginning of the game, but what's strange, you can choose light or moderate. There is no hard for puzzles, which puzzles ultimately are uneven. There are moments when I had great time solving the puzzles, and all the time the puzzle was so easy that I just went through it like knife through butter. But at the same time, there were also some riddles that I genuinely didn't want to think about them, because you have to understand the rules of the board game to open one safe or something like that. And I genuinely was like staring at it and I was like, I don't really want to do this. So, but I ultimately did it because I really did enjoy going around and opening these safes. And there is also one really annoying thing that ties into puzzles and riddles, especially in the main storyline. If you are trying to just solve the quest, like solve the puzzle like the one that I actually am doing right now on the screen, the companion is constantly going to try to remind you what you are supposed to do. Or maybe you are going to open this door by doing this and this. And I can't stress enough how annoying this is, because I'm literally doing this right now. It just takes time to steer the light from the one side to the other, but the companion is constantly going to remind remind me what I'm about to do. And this is something that annoys me in a lot of games, and Stellar Blade for an example. There was no like riddles in Stellar Blade, but even when exploring the room, the game constantly nagged me, hey, press down on D-pad to get a tip what you are supposed to be doing in this location. I genuinely would like to ask devs to stop treating gamers like fucking idiots, especially because I did not choose light puzzles. I chose your hardest difficulty, which is moderate. So just make these characters, these companions, to stop talking. What am I supposed to be doing? Also, sometimes to pick up a collectible that you want to pick up, like a book or an ancient relic, you will be forced to complete additional quests, locking you out of the collectible because you have to complete other side quest to progress in completing this one. It's a little bit strange, but I appreciate kinda doing something different. It is not like the collectibles are just always for you to reach out and take them. You sometimes have to, oh, these doors are actually locked and I have to do something different to open these doors. So I have to go, for an example, and finish this quest, so I'm going to be able to receive the collectible from this person because this person is not going to give me the collectible before I finish the quest. Or for an example, there are these doors that are locked and I need a key, so I have to find a special uniform that contains this key, and right there I can go and pick up the collectibles that I'm actually searching for. It is kind of refreshing. It is not like Ubisoft slop, so calling it Ubisoft slop would be kind of overstatement, because they actually tried to do something different and something more like trying to engage player into the playing the game. You know what I'm saying? Like, they wanted you to get into the game more to be able to unlock some collectible. You also are picking up like a bunch of notes and items and relics, and you get something that is called in the game as adventure points. And by books that you are able to find throughout the game as collectibles, these books serve the purpose of upgrading your skill set. So you are better brawler, for an example, or you have higher health bar, or you have better stamina and stuff. So these books, every single time you pick up the book, you get new like a skill upgrade to unlock. And with these adventure points that you obtain through the game by picking up basically everything in the game, you are able to go out and upgrade your character, and you are not going to die so easy in the future. Or for an example, you can run for longer, you can fight for longer. And to be completely honest, if I did not upgrade my character at all, I probably would have a lot of hard time dealing with the last boss fight in the game, because yeah, it is probably the hardest point in the game, the last boss fight, so that actually checks out. They actually managed to do that. Congratulations. The game is relying also more on stealth than going guns blazing. There are also a lot of guns that you can actually pick up lying around, and you can try shooting all of the enemies on the map, but it's kind of hard to do. And you also have your revolver. You can also take every single weapon and turn it around and use it as a melee weapon, because the game also relies heavily on melee fight, which this is the main reason why they probably chose to not include something like third-person perspective mode, because they would have to completely change the fighting style for this game. So you can go in guns blazing, you can go stealthy. Guns blazing is hard because enemies are really bullet spongy, and the game also doesn't count headshots as insta-kills, which from one side I understand why, because at this point the game would be extremely easy, but it also takes away this being an immersive sim type of experience. In all of the locations you can obtain special uniforms where you also can dress as the enemies, and they will treat you as their own guy. The only one at this point who can actually spot you are the captains, and sometimes, like in Vatican, you also are required to wear a disguise as a priest to be even able to enter some sections, because the game won't allow you to enter because you have to be dressed as a priest. And you can also pick up a lot of weapons like bottles, pickaxes, some brooms, and everything that lies around you can basically pick up and you can use it as a weapon. To the point when I was just sneaking through the base and just slamming everyone with a hammer across their head. I was like, this is Patrick Bateman Simulator. This is American Psycho, the video game. But it's really fun to do, and they did a great job creating this combat system. It was really fun as I was playing it. However, there are some things that tempered with my experience because the game has exquisite amount of bugs. It feels like this game is going to need a lot of patches because things that happened to me while playing, I'd never expect this type of junk from AAA game, but they happened. Let's start with the fact that enemy AI is probably worse than modern Assassin's Creed games. You can sneak all around them and they won't notice you. At one point I was forced to visit the same location for the third time, and because of the side quest that I embarked on. And I was done sneaking into this location for the third time, so I just crouched and went straight through the middle of the location. And at one point some officer was walking straight towards me. I decided to turn around with my back towards him, and it actually worked. He did not see me, he did not raise the alarm. You can sneak through the entire levels and the enemies' field of view is laughable. If you don't stand straight in front of them sometimes, they will not notice you. And the AI of dogs is also bad and even worse than the human AI, because the dogs straight up sometimes break and stare at the wall and you can do whatever you want and the dog is not going to do anything, even if you're going to be running and jumping around it. And before someone will write something about trying the higher difficulty level, there is no higher difficulty level. I played on the highest difficulty level in the game, the very hard difficulty, and I don't imagine myself playing on any lower difficulty at this point after what I've experienced on the highest one, because the game is still extremely easy. Outside of the poor enemies AI, I also managed to find a spot underwater on the third map when all the time when you would jump into the water, go underwater and swim into this place, you'd break the game. The character underwater would be allowed to walk, you would be allowed to shoot, use your whip, and by the extent of it, you could not leave the water because you would be unable to swim, because the game breaks into this place and treats you like you are on the surface. And sometimes when you spend enough time trying to jump and move around, the game is going to finally unglitch itself, but it actually demands a lot of time to do that, so it's easier to just reload the save. Also, one of the most dangerous bugs happened to me in the last location in the game, last mission in the game, where there's a point where you have to find a key to open the door. I did find it, I pressed pick it up, and I instantly got into attacking the enemy that has spotted me before he could alert anyone, only to find out that the game treated like I don't have the key and the key was gone. I did pick it up, I just started thinking maybe this was not the key that I was supposed to find. Maybe there is an odd key that I'll have to find. But for being cautious and 100% certain, I reloaded the last save that the game did, and it was this key. Now, the game doesn't feature manual saves. It is all on one singular save slot that overrides automatically. If I left the building trying to search the key outside or in other buildings, I'd be locked out of finishing the game. I'd be forced to replay it, a full game at this point. This is literally part of the game when you can get locked off of finishing the game. Unfortunately, I was cautious enough to reload the save before I started going outside of the building, because the game saves are placed really bad. And there were also parts that I mentioned earlier that when you jump above the plane in one section, it starts blinking, like the game doesn't really load the textures when you're above the plane. And final fuck up that I'd personally call not a bug but terrible autosave spots, and which, by the way, this game has some really terrible autosave points. It happens few times in the game when I was automatically saved second before the enemy patrolling the perimeter would spot me. It happened a few times. When going through the last location, we have the marker on the tent. If you press X to enter the tent, this is the last time you get control over your character in the game. before the last fight happens. Therefore, I entered the tent unaware of the fact that this is the last time I'm being in control of Indiana Jones, so I only had 2 health bars left. And during the fight, you are completely stripped of your bandages. You cannot heal, so you fight with 2 bars of health. Now, you may ask, why wouldn't you just reload the last checkpoint? I did. And guess what? These numbskulls placed in autosave between the cutscenes, where one cutscene ends and the another begins right after, they placed an autosave in between them. So I had to finish the last fight without getting fully hit even once, because if you get at least once hit fully, you are going to insta-die. I could only get hit with like not a full hit. It happens when you are far away from the enemy and he only touches you. Somehow the game counts this as 1/3 of a hit. As for being kicked, it's insta-death on 2 health bars. It doesn't even matter that you are far away from the enemy. Later, there is a second stage of the fight where you can't get hit even once in any way. I actually thought about going back and lowering the difficulty for a moment to beat the last boss, but I ultimately decided that I'm not a pussy and I will finish it without being fully hit even once. So, and I did. I actually did it. Ultimately, I did have fun play, but I also was angered by a few things that are clearly unpolished. So I finished the whole main story of the game, majority of the side quests and collectibles, and I would recommend this game to any Indiana Jones fan. It is like a 4th movie that we never got, and I'm not going to claim that this is some sort of masterpiece and the best game of the year. It's definitely not the best game released this year, but it deserves praise and it deserves some more recognition that it gets. And also it is on Game Pass, so you don't even have to pay full price to play it, you just can subscribe to Game Pass. And yeah, I actually would risk saying that this game may be the best Indiana Jones game to this date, because we had Infernal Machine, which was decent, we had Emperor's Tomb, we also had the horrific Staff of Kings and Lego Indiana Jones games, and also we had Fate of the Atlantis, which up to this point probably I would deem as my favorite Indiana Jones game, because this was like a 4th movie with Indiana Jones that we never got. Later we got the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, unfortunately, but Fate of the Atlantis was great. But this game actually introduces gameplay. It is fully playable, it has great riddles, it has side quests, it has a feeling of Indiana Jones, it has cinematic cutscenes and the humor that I would compare to the Last Crusade ones. So I fully recommend this game, and that will be all. Bye.